The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking for 2022. I'm David Shearman, your host, and I want to welcome to Politically Speaking for this new year, Dwight Burley, the mayor of Georgian Bluffs, and Cynthia Fletcher, who is the new, and we'll find out just how new, CAO for Georgian Bluffs. So welcome to the both of you. Good to have you here.
Thank you, David.
Thanks very much.
Now, 2022 has opened with, well, dare I say it, it's Groundhog Day again. We're back in the same thing, unfortunately. Modified stage 2, and that has meant that there are some changes. What's happening at Georgian Bluffs, Dwight? What changes has the council instituted?
Well, unfortunately, we're going back 1 foot ahead and 3 back. Unfortunately, we're back to where I never hoped we'd ever go back again, is to virtual meetings. Our council chambers has been basically shut down, and we'll all go back to virtual meetings everywhere now. Staff will be going with a skeleton crew in the municipal building. Our offices are closed for the public at this present time, but we're here to answer and help any ratepayer with any question or concern they have. Cynthia will be here to take all the bad stuff, and I'll just take the praise.
Did he tell you that, Cynthia, that was part of your job?
No, that's a new one.
Well, in all seriousness, in other words, it's operations, but as usual, but different. And it's kind of back, like you say, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and we're back into the COVID protocols. But if people have concerns, they can still contact the municipal office in the usual manners, by phone, by email, and there will be a response, correct?
That's 100% correct. Business as usual. We bid different format, but everything is the same. We're here to serve.
Sure. Now, Cynthia, will the staff be working from home?
Thanks, David. Yeah, we will actually do sort of rotating shifts in a number of different areas. Our focus is to provide service to our township, but making sure that our staff can work in the safest manner possible. So there are a few of us in the township office today, but spaced out. A lot of people working out and in the community. And a number of areas that if citizens have questions or concerns, they can make an appointment to meet with a staff member, and we'll make sure that distancing is part of that meeting. Thanks.
Yes, and just to get back to council meetings and committee meetings, if people want to observe those meetings, what's the platform or place that you use for those meetings?
We asked anyone if they would like to take part in any meeting with us is to register with the clerk, and the clerk will make sure they're on the agenda, ask questions, listen, whatever they wish to do. But it's best to register with the clerk.
So if people want to participate or want to observe, that's the best place. Contact the clerk and they will tell them how to do it.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I hate to say it, but this is getting a bit old hat. And maybe too much old hat. Thank you very much. But I'd also like to point out that all the municipal recreation facilities are shut down. That's like the Shallow Lake Arena is closed, but the arena is being used by public health, is it not?
At this present time, no. It is available if necessary. It's pretty well the same protocol as before. And yes, our arenas are shut down at the present time.
I understood that there were some clinics at Shallow Lake Arena, vaccination clinics at Shallow Lake Arena, but they may have passed from when we're taping. So because I know I did get mine there back in December.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, but they would be available, for example, if public health needed it or whatever.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to put a plug in here, there are two things that people can do if they want to get their third shot or their first or second shot. There are lots of appointments available, I am told. And the other thing is that public health does need volunteers. And if you go to the public health website, there are opportunities to volunteer at the vaccination clinics if you feel so inclined. So there's lots of opportunities there. Well, Cynthia, to be quite serious, this is what, hour 5 of your first day on the job?
It is. Officially, this is my first day, David. So thanks for the welcome and the opportunity to speak with you. Although it's day 1, I did participate, just to continue the COVID-19 conversation, I did participate with our staff and then the county CAOs yesterday in a couple of virtual calls, just talking about the new restrictions and what our response would be. So had a couple of introductions yesterday, but you are correct. I'm at about hour 5 on my first day.
So Dwight decides to throw you a curveball. Well, welcome to Georgian Bluffs. But let's talk about your background. What's your experience? You don't get to be a CAO unless you have certain certifications and qualifications and experiences. What is your experiences as in the municipal government system?
Sure, and thanks. I started my public sector career actually at a school board in Waterloo Region, so spent a number of years in that area of the public sector. But then I had a terrific opportunity to join the city of Kitchener as a director and then advance to a department head. And for the last 3 years, I've been with the city of Peterborough as their Commissioner of Infrastructure and Planning Services. So really broadened the area of accountability that I had for municipal services. And it's always been my dream to be a CAO, and particularly in a smaller, terrific township. And the opportunity came up in Georgian Bluffs, and I'm thrilled to be in the township. And my family will be settling in the township. And once the COVID restrictions are lifted, you'll see us out and about.
That's great. That's great, because I am extremely familiar with Peterborough myself, and so we'll talk off air about that.
Sure.
But in all seriousness, it's good to have someone with both with the broad variety of experience to step into a position like this. And as I talked, I remember before Christmas talking to one of our planners at Grey County, who was saying that people are moving from larger centers to smaller centers, and it's really changing the nature of the communities, and for them, the nature of the planning process, because there are new voices at the table. Sure. So it will be interesting to see how, dare I say it, COVID refugees or the COVID exodus has an impact on Georgian Bluffs, because I've heard every municipality talking about this, from the town of Blue Mountains right over to Owen Sound and Meaford. They're all talking about this. So it sounds like it's the same kind of thing. And you're an example. Right,
exactly. And I think, it's challenging to be forced to remote working or virtual platforms. There are also, I think it's a new way of business functioning, at least in a hybrid model moving forward. So I think you're absolutely right. We could see quite a bit of growth in our township over the next few years.
And not just that, but citizen engagement. And Dwight, you referred to the virtual council meetings, which are imperfect, but at least it does allow people to watch and engage and feel as if they are at least can observe the process.
For sure. David, the way this will never change. The way we used to do business will never be the same. We'll always have virtual meetings. Township of Georgian Bluffs will continue with virtual, even for council members. If they're unable to attend the council chambers, they can attend virtually, same as any ratepayer. It makes it very convenient for them to be able to register with the clerk and take part in the meeting anywhere in the world, really. And we even had our HR manager taking part in the meeting when she was in Germany. So there's no end to how far we can go.
Believe me, I know exactly what that's about. I have a colleague who takes part in regular meetings from Austria, and it's as long as the internet connections are reasonably good. It may be our meetings are in the afternoon and it's evening there, but he participates, and it's great to see. It's great to see. Now, the big thing that has kind of happened in Georgian Bluffs is obviously the airport sale. Dwight, give us some chronology behind that. We know that it was originally purchased by South Bruce Peninsula and Georgian Bluffs, and it was sold to Georgian Bluffs. And there was a study done that said, hey, this is going to be very expensive in the very near future. And then what?
Well, me very simply is that Georgian Bluffs and South Bruce Peninsula both owned the airport, two municipalities together owning it. The business prospects weren't very good having two municipalities owning one item. We, in turn, negotiated with South Bruce Peninsula and bought their share of the airport. So Georgian Bluffs was sole owners. We had many public meetings at the time and afterwards, and it was made very clear to us by our ratepayers that they do not want to be in an airport business and use taxpayers' dollar to fund it. And we heard them very clear. We went in with the county to do a feasibility study, and we had Lomex do the study. The study came back with excellent ideas and so on. It put different light on the airport itself. A priority hub type situation was what we were looking at, and it was very feasible. So Georgian Bluffs put the RFP out for sale of the airport, and we were very fortunate that we got some very good action on that RFP. We ended up having 3 different companies. So council took our time, looked at every part of each one of their offers and so on, and council elected that Clayton Smith was the person that would be successful in the purchase of the airport. Clayton has a vast experience. First of all, he's a pilot himself. He's got vast experience in the airport business. He owns 2 other airports, one at Rama and one at Muskoka. Different styles of airports, but very good. Clayton was successful in buying the Owensound Airport. It's, I shouldn't refer to it as an airport because it's a registered aerodrome. It's not really an airport. And then they were very successful in buying the Wharton Capital International Airport. And it is an airport, certified airport. We have all great understanding everything that Clayton will do fantastic things for the whole region. We as a municipality weren't just looking for Georgian Bluffs, we're looking for Georgian Bluffs and the region. What can someone do with these valuable assets? And we really feel that Clayton is a person that can do that in the near future.
Yes, Bailey, you make a good point that the Wharton Airport is different from the Owen Sound Airport, that it is a true airport. It also serves as an important emergency field for larger aircraft, because you can carefully and in a pinch put a jet aircraft down there. But it's also got Environment Canada. It's also got a weather station there. It's also got air traffic control, which I believe operates out of London, but it's all networked. And so it's an important transportation hub for the airways.
See, NAV Canada has spent millions and millions of dollars at the Wharton Capital International Airport, putting in new guided systems, GPS, a whole bunch of real fantastic things that's way out of my brain power. But anyway, they spent millions of dollars in there upgrading everything. And for a pilot, it's just an amazing place to be able to fly over and have that feeling that we have a place where we can land in any weather at all. I've been over there many times myself, having the, everyone refers to Orange emergency system, the helicopter and so on. Yes, the helicopter can land pretty well anywhere, but the main gist of the Warren Coupling Airport with all the navigation systems we have in place in the 150-foot runway. I was there one night when a air ambulance fixed wing landed in a snowstorm. And it's quite amazing to be there, see something like that happen. That's always going to be there for this whole region, and it's great that we have something like that.
Well, certainly it was an early Christmas present to the region, dare I say. And it's good to hear, because these pieces of infrastructure, as we've discussed in previous conversations, are very, very important to the region.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, David. Every time it snows now, I smile from ear to ear, knowing that we don't have to worry about making sure our airport snow conditions are dealt with. So I guess I'm being very selfish.
Very good point. Snow control, as it's called, is always on the minds of municipal politicians and municipal civil servants, to be sure. Cynthia, I would say that if they didn't tell you, there's more snow here than there is in Peterborough.
I've been told that, but I actually like the snow, so I'm all good.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. So we've got the airport is closed, put to bed, and moving on to other things. Is that correct, Dwight?
Yes, there's always many great things happening in Georgian Bluffs. The airport was an issue. We wanted to make sure we dealt with it before election year. We did do that, and it's great to have it done. So we move forward. And anytime we had election in Georgian Bluffs, we talked about two things, only two things: Biodigester and airport. They never talked about roads or taxes or anything like that. It seemed to be those two big items. We have dealt with one. We are in the process of dealing with the next one, the Biodigester.
Well, that's a great segue into what my next question is. What's new with the Biodigester? Because we've had, that's been one of the sort of ongoing subtexts we've had in our conversations over the last few years. What's new with the Biodigester?
The Biodigester is still there, functioning very well. It's still half owned by Untitled Chapter in Georgian Bluffs. We are needing capital funding to upgrade it to be able to take sources, separating organics and things like that. We do have different suppliers of necessary feed for the Biodigester. It's actually starting soon, very high grade loads and stuff, so it's a plus. We're looking at the present time to up the revenue coming in to offset the expenses, but we are still continually negotiating, working with various different options, like maybe private public partners or whatever, but we're still working towards that.
You referred to source separated organics, and one of the things that I'm a little bit aware of is that it's not just a matter of taking green bins out of the neighborhoods, but they've also got to be separated and cleaned up a bit. Do they not, before they can go into things like the Biodigester?
That's correct. What we need to put in the necessary equipment in buildings to be able to run the source separated organics through it, to take out plastics and other stuff like that before it goes into the Biodigester. And that's one of the necessary upgrades we'd have to do. We would have to install a flare on the unit itself. You have to be able to control the amount of gas you produce, and that's one way you're doing it is with a flare.
Right. So that the methane, which is the gas, I believe the gas that's produced, gets flared off if you get too much. Is that right?
Yeah, right now we're running on a generator, and you have to be very careful how much feed you put in it, so you can't go past your 100% efficiency as a generator. There's a safety margin there they have to use, and so you got to be very careful how much product you bring in at a time and so on. Whereas if you had a flare there, you can control that an awful lot easier.
You know, I don't think it's been made clear, at least not to me, that while we may want source separate, we may want to have organic and waste recovery and green bins. It's a more complex process than just having a green bin. There's a lot of fine tuning that has to be done, and it's got to be cleaned up, and even the process itself has to be done carefully and thoughtfully. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's very different. One thing about the biodigester, which I keep preaching, is that we are in Georgian Bluffs are really getting involved in climate action and so on. And it's the biodigester is one of the key assets to make that really work. The day has gone by where we take septic systems and pumps and so on and dump them on farmers' lands. They should be put through a biodigester so they come back 99.9% passing free. And that's a plus that we have that asset in Georgian Bluffs and Chatsworth to be able to use for that very thing.
There was a number of years ago a movement to require that septage, as it's called, or sewage tank pumping and holding tank pumping to be put through a biodigester, but that's never been enacted to my knowledge. Do you foresee that kind of legal requirement coming?
We had many meetings with the province and the environment ministers at the time. And I can think for the last 2 terms of council, we've met with them. They would not impose restrictions on dumping septic systems on so-called farmers' fields. They wanted us, as a smaller municipality, to put these bylaws in place. We chose not to. We felt it was a provincial item that they should make those changes so all septic systems had to go through a biodigester. Not there yet?
Yeah. That's very interesting, Dwight, because what it sounds like is that generally things like septic systems are all regulated by provincial regulation. I mean, if you have a septic system or they're part of water regulation, water purity regulation. So to kind of make this an exception, well, I'll leave unsaid what I was going to say, but it sounds like there's a need for ongoing conversation.
See, the province issues license to haulers to have certain areas where they can dump their septic systems. Yeah. And what we're saying is we want the province to ban that, so they have to take it to a biodigester.
Yeah. A registered facility of some kind, whatever that may be.
Yep.
Sure. Makes sense. Makes sense. Well, it's a very, very, what should I say, ongoing and interesting conversation. Will this come up at, is it Roma coming up at the end of January? Will that be part of the conversation, or is that going to be left for another time?
We haven't registered with any minister or made any scheduled meetings with anyone yet. If we have the opportunity when we're there, we can have those conversations, we definitely will. You seem to get more, how would I say, more out of having private meetings than you do trying to make let's face it, delegate's only 10 minutes. Which you can have a private meeting with somebody, the minister, which happens many times, could be half an hour. And you can get a lot more done that way, and that's the benefit of going to these types of conferences.
And the other thing, too, is our local MPP can also perhaps facilitate conversations with a minister.
They're most generally there with us at the same time, yes.
Yeah. So, but Roma does come up, is it the end of January?
I believe it's February. Olga's first and then Roma. Right.
And these are we've talked on many occasions with all the politicians, these are the key points of contact with between municipalities and the province. With this being an election year, one never knows. Plus COVID, that really makes it a crapshoot to figure out what's going to come out of those meetings. But you never know. So, and that'll be a new one for you too, Cynthia. That those conversations at the very highest level because those probably were not part of the conversations that you had in your previous employments.
At times, depending on the, I've written memos for delegations with our MPP or just the span of responsibility I had. I was often dealing with different ministry offices. So, it's an area that I'm comfortable with. So.
Yeah. Well, that's good because it is a very important role for both municipal politicians and the public servants who are part of our governance structure, because it's our administration structure, because that's how things happen generally. Yeah. So that's a really, really good thing. It's an absolutely. We're going to have a break in a few minutes, but I want to get into some of that. You talked about climate action, Dwight, and I want to leave that for the second half of the show. But I wanted to ask you about speed limit changes. Now, what's that all about that's going on in Georgian Bluffs? Well, don't tell me you've got racing going on.
Well, we've been following you around, David, and wherever you go, we reduce the speed limit.
Well, I'll have to stay off Grey Road 17A then.
No, we've had many concerns, complaints about speeding in various areas and so on through the municipality. So our director of operations has spent a lot of time on this area. We believe in trying to get some traffic calming situations put in place. And this is just the start of it, that these areas that we reduced the speed limit to 40 in a lot of areas, and for good cause. And we think it's going to work out good. The OPP that's facing can go and put up their speed traps and so on in various areas, thinking that we have complaints of speeders coming down through there and so on. It ends up two things. There's no speeding, or it's the very person that lives in that area that's speeding. So we're trying to look at it in a different way of reducing the speed limits in these various areas. For instance, Presqu'île area, very growing up more all the time. But it seemed like a very good place to reduce the speed limits to see if we can get things under control. Speeding signs, for instance, we found out that we didn't have enough speeding signs according to the guidelines that were put in place. If there's no speed limit, it's automatic 80 kilometers an hour. That's, we just silly things like that we have to address, which we are doing. And I think it's going to work out very good. It's going to be a change for everybody, but I think it's for the best.
Sure. It's that sort of rural urban balance that we have to have, because as you build up the residential structures, you can't go quite as fast in a built up area, and people have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and see, most of the roads in a lot of these areas too were not designed for 80 kilometers an hour speed, and the more they're going up, the more we have to think about being very seriously to make sure the speed limits are the appropriate set. I'm not saying by putting speed limits down 40, everyone's going to go 40. No, they will not. We know that for a fact. But at least we're trying to show it makes sense to reduce your speed limit to a sensible speed. That's what we're trying to do.
Sure. Well, it's a very interesting conversation, because I think it indicates the change that is happening in Georgian Bluffs, and it's an interesting response that I'm seeing in other municipalities across the province. So we will see. One of those little things. I'm sure we'll be talking about that again. Well, I just got the word that we can go to break, so we will be back very shortly. Friends, I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking, and we'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
The world's most famous Canadian, Grey Owl, just back from a triumphant British tour, is to be a reluctant guest at a gathering of First Nations.
Archie, you may not realize this, but right now you are the most famous Red Indian in the world. These are your people. You have to be there. Come on, Harold, let's go.
Sure, I'm sure. His name is Archie Bellini, and if he's a Red Indian, I'm the king of China.
It is an honor to meet the man called Grey Owl, who has brought much respect for our people.
Imposter, rascal, dreamer. And yet the Englishman who called himself Grey Owl awoke the whole world to our vanishing wilderness.
My brother says, men become what they dream. You have dreamed well.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guests are the mayor of Georgian Bluffs, Dwight Burley, and the new CAO for Georgian Bluffs, Cynthia Fletcher. And just to be fair, this is Cynthia's first day on the job, and so Dwight introduces her to the media. Well, good. That's a good way to begin. Cynthia, welcome back. Dwight, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, I wanted to I suppose speed limit changes, which is where we left off, are a form of climate action. But I noticed you have a very active climate action committee in Georgian Bluffs. And the first thing I noticed is you've got a new bylaw to regulate the destruction of trees, destruction and injury of trees on both public and private lands. What's behind that?
Well, one thing about our climate action plan, 100% behind the climate action plan, but we have to be very careful to all stay in our own lanes. Okay, I'm saying that very politely. We've had some problems with tree cutting through our municipality, non-authorized. So we're putting bylaws in place to control that, which we have penalties in place for it now and so on. Whereas the Climate Action Committee, they're 100% correct. You cut down a tree, you should replace it with 2 or 3 more. We in Georgian Bluffs are trying to come up with a final climate action plan that we can have it accepted by council, by bylaw. So we, the Climate Action Committee, are in the process, I should say, of finalizing a consultant to help them with just bringing everything all together at the end so we come up with this final plan. And they're doing a fantastic job, but just need a little bit of coaching in the right direction to make sure we bring it the way it should be. And that's what we're doing. And then we really look forward to that final plan coming back to Georgian Bluffs.
Yes, I saw the RFP that went out and the acceptance of the RFP for wood environment and infrastructure solutions to develop that climate action plan. Will this will be very comprehensive and quite broad?
Yes, it will. And see, the Climate Action Committee have been working with various other committees throughout the area, other municipalities, and Grey County. The whole idea is not to try to invent the wheel twice. So we're all working together so we come up with a very good comprehensive plan for everybody. And with these experts like Wood and so on, they'll be able to put all this information together to bring it back to basically what applies in Georgian Bluffs and what can we do to help with climate action. And that's what we're doing.
That sounds like something we'll certainly, once it comes back, be talking on a future show, because climate action is a very much a hot topic these days. I'm also pleased to hear that it's going to be integrated with the county, because there's some suggestion in some areas that, well, it's our climate action plan, but no, it's got to be integrated with the county, doesn't it?
No, it's the upper tier and lower tier. We all have to work together. Yeah. And like I said, no sense inventing the wheel twice. If we work together and with their guide, the county's guidance and Georgian Bluffs input and so on, same as Grey Highlands and so on, we all work together, come up with a proper plan that you can really look at and basically implement it. That's important.
And the county has a new person in that portfolio as well, who is very, very qualified. And I've had her on the show.
Yes.
And very, very qualified. So it sounds like things are going to be well in hand. So I certainly, like I say, look forward to further discussions and conversation about this, about what Georgian Bluffs is going to do. Mark,
Yeah,
for the next...
we as a municipality, we did form this climate action committee. The committee reports back to council. The committee doesn't make any decisions. They bring recommendations back to council, and they've been doing a great job. They're bringing the right stuff back to council for input and so on. And we just look forward to the final plan comes back so council can adopt it.
Which leads me to another thing I noticed in the last council minutes. The Climate Action Committee doesn't have authority in and of itself. It can only recommend, as you said, to the council. But they took a recommendation from the municipality of Grey Highlands to request, and I'm going to read it here, that the government of Ontario place an interim cap of 2.5 megatons per year on greenhouse gas pollution from Ontario's gas-fired power plants and develop and implement a plan to phase out all gas-fired electricity generations by 2030 to help Ontario and Grey Highlands meet our climate targets. And it was interesting to see that what this does is it shows how sometimes, and actually it's quite often, the action, the resolution from one municipality gets taken by another municipality and either changed or adopted and recommended going forward. So that all of a sudden you've got, let's say there are 400 and something municipalities in Ontario. If you have 200 or 300 of them saying the same thing, all of a sudden somebody's got to pay attention, and let's hope it's the province.
You're 100% correct. Like we in Georgian Bluffs don't necessarily have to accept all recommendations coming from the municipalities. The good ones we do. And you'll find, if you, in that motion you're looking at, is that you'll notice that it does go to the province, environmental minister, and so on and so on. So we, in Georgian Bluffs, did support that. So it'll go back to the province saying, hey, these municipalities are coming up to the plate here and they're understanding what's going on. And this is where we need the help of our consultant to make sure we're, how would I say it, staying in our own lane and we're doing it in a proper fashion. That's in no way trying to slam the climate committee. I'm just trying to say that that's why we need these experts to help us along the way.
I think the other point is that, at least as I understand it, that these kinds of letters are always in circulation. That if people want to follow them, all they've got to look at is the correspondence received that is in the agenda for each municipal council.
That's right.
And they're all there, and sometimes they're acted on, and sometimes they're not.
Yeah, some councils will accept it as information only.
Yeah.
Or if a council wants to pull it out and act on it with their own motion in support and so on, that's what we do. I think it's great.
Yeah, and that's what I was hoping you would affirm, and you have this whole idea of the process, because it's where we kind of sometimes get lost in the weeds on how does things happen. Well, this is how things happen. This is how change happens often. Yep. Not all the time, but because when you get a number of municipalities, particularly the large municipalities, signing on to some of these resolutions, or there are a variety of similar resolutions, this kind of puts the government on notice that they better pay attention, because this is an issue of concern to the people.
That's correct.
So it's one way to get people to, it's one further way, I might add, of getting people to have input into policy at each of the three levels, lower, upper, and provincial.
Yep.
So it's a really good example of that kind of action. And as I say, people want to follow this stuff, just go and read the correspondence log in any municipality's agendas, because they're all there and quite interesting sometimes. They can also be, as they say on the internet, TLDR, too long, didn't read. Because sometimes they can go to pages. And Cynthia, I notice you're smiling there.
Yeah.
They're sometimes they can be very interesting, but very complex.
That's right.
Anyway, let's go on to another big shift that's happened. And I think it is an important shift, and that's the library agreement. And Dwight, you were involved in that, were you not?
No, I was involved in it as the mayor of the municipality, but we had two representatives, council members that were part of that negotiating committee. North Grey Union Library has been a great asset for Georgian Bluffs and the city of Owenstown and the other members. And Georgian Bluffs stands behind that library 100%. We come up with a very, very sensible new agreement, and it's great. We can't provide as a municipality this library service ourselves. The best thing for us to do is support a library that can do that. That's why Georgian Bluffs support the North Grey Library 100%.
Yeah, and I think there were some, the library in the past has had some, let's just say there has been some conflicted issues around the library in the past, and I'll leave it at that. But this time, it was in fact quite amenable. That it didn't even make the newspapers. Just that we have an agreement, and there's some new stuff here, and we like it, and that's great to see. That's municipal cooperation at its very best.
Well, it comes as a Union North Grey Library agreement. It's about a 10-year process, and we just happened to come that time where we had to sit down and look at it. All members agreed that it was the most sensible thing to do, and it's a great agreement.
Yeah.
And I thank our council members for really attending these meetings and putting their full support behind it. And same as Kim and the chair, it was great dealing with them.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing. Win-win-win.
Yep.
So we'll come back to that one in 10 years, Dwight. Well, you probably won't be running for mayor then. And I may not be the host, politically speaking, which kind of leads me into the next topic, and that is 2022. And as you had alluded to in the very beginning of the show, it's an election year. and I think it's going to be an election, at least we have two elections. Let me make it clear. June 2nd is the provincial election, and then October 24th, have I got that right, Cynthia?
David, I'd have to double check on that.
It's late October.
Yeah.
It's late October. I'm not in that range right now, but I know that June 2nd is the province, and then we'll worry about the municipal election. Now, what exactly is there any impact municipally by the provincial election, Dwight?
No, other than it should be in the same year as a municipal election, but that's my own opinion. Yet, I don't think so. I think ratepayers and all municipalities around here are going to get sick and tired of elections and signs and all that good stuff. So, yeah, that sort of impacts the municipality in a way. We in Georgian Bluffs, we look forward to our election every 4 years. The nomination period is from the May 2nd to August 31st. So there's plenty of time for people that are interested in the political world. They can register and go for it. And I think it's way too long of a period, but that's, again, my personal opinion. We in Georgian Bluffs are going to stick to our same phone and internet voting. We will have polls in various spots, but that's why we have a fantastic clerk to set all this up for us, and I certainly leave it all to her.
Yes, it's one of the important jobs of the municipal clerk's office is to run the municipal election, and let's hope that we don't have a repeat of the 4 years ago when there was an internet outage at one of the providers, not the ballot, the voting company itself, but one of the providers that delayed some of the results in some municipalities for up to 24 hours. But generally, things are quite seamless, and it's done. And okay, let's move on.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, Cynthia, it's the clerk, not you, who does the election, but you certainly have oversight of the electoral process.
Sure. I mean, I do have ultimate accountability, but it really is, I can't take any credit for pulling off the municipal election. And if folks have never experienced organizing or being part of a municipal election, I'd encourage folks to volunteer their time. I've done it a couple of times, and it's quite incredible to see the work that goes into it. And the fact that, to your point, you have one day to pull everything off. And it's quite incredible to see what they do to make a municipal election happen.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point there when you say people should volunteer if they want to see how the process work. Mm-hmm. There's nothing better than volunteering. Right. Nothing better than volunteering in a municipal election. It can be time, take a bit of time, but having done it myself, it's certainly very rewarding. And you do get to see the inside of the political process. If you are on one hand critical, and on the other hand just don't know, it's a great opportunity for every person, every elector to take the opportunity to become more informed. And
it's a great opportunity to sign your nomination papers and go visit all your ratepayers in your municipality, and it really gives you a different insight.
Was that a plug for candidacy for people running, Dwight? Oh, you're silent. Actually, that is a very, very good point, because one of the things that I personally believe, and I would encourage anyone who is interested, is that to run for a municipal office is it's work. It can be fun, but at the same time, to represent the citizens of your community is a very, very high honor. And if you think you can be a part of government, throw your hat in. What is it? I think it's 25. Is it 25 signatures you have to have on this go round? It went up, I know, but
That's right.
I think it's 25 signatures of electors to sign your nomination papers, and there is a small fee.
200 for mayor and 100 for council members.
And enjoy yourself, because you'll get to know your friends and neighbors, and you'll get an earful. You will get an earful. Dwight, I'm surprised you aren't deaf from all the concerns that you've heard over the years. But yeah, I would encourage people. And the other thing that I'm aware of is that there is a movement to increase the representation of women at all levels of political life. And the best way to do that is at the local level through through municipal politics, or if I can throw in another opportunity, is school board. And now, who is the trustee for Georgian Bluffs? Trying to think. It's
remember.
It's a separate one from. It's not the trustee who represents Owen Sound. It's separate. Do they also not represent Chatsworth? Anyway, the name will come to me. But my point is that school boards have had a tremendous impact, and their work has been very important over the last through COVID, to be sure.
Yep.
And we've had the director of education and the chair of the board on the show, so they've spoken about the important work that they do. So let's not forget our board of education as an opportunity as well. So. What else are you looking forward to in 2022, Dwight?
To have our CEO stay here for a year. That's a goal.
Well, we won't go there, will we?
No, I'm looking forward to getting stability back in the municipality, start looking forward to get rid of some of our bigger headaches. We're doing that very efficiently. Our roads department, I think, is doing a fantastic job. Looking forward to updating our official plan, which is continually going. We had some fantastic students from various universities doing certain portions of the plan for us. Just amazing, smart young people. And they brought back some excellent reports, which is going to help us out when we put it all together. So there's many things I want to see happen in 2022. It's just, it's going to be an amazing year.
Good. Now, Cynthia, it's not fair, I know, but what do you look forward to in 2022?
Working with the mayor.
No, I truly think there's so much potential for our township. I'll be focusing on relationship building with staff, with our council, with community members. It's a bit challenging right now with the new restrictions, but I'm going to do my best, whether we have to do some virtual meetings. I've met some of our neighboring colleagues. I think there's just such great opportunity. I think we've touched on three major challenges for the community this year, and that's, we keep riding the wave of the pandemic, so we need to work on getting our community through that. And we have 2 elections coming up, and that's all on top of the services that we provide on a day-to-day and weekly basis. So I want to work to support staff and council on the service that we're providing to our township, and we'll be doing a lot of reviewing of our service provision and looking at our resources. And I plan to be here a year from now when we have the follow-up conversation. How's that?
That sounds absolutely fabulous. And I'm sure that is music to Dwight's ears. Right, Dwight?
Right on.
Yes. I think it is fair to say that municipal upheaval doesn't do anyone any good, neither the politicians nor the ratepayers. And so to have some, how shall I say it, some stability and ability to move ahead is certainly a laudable goal for 2022, and we certainly look forward to it. And Dwight, I just, this is going to sound a little strange, but I noticed, have you grown in height? Yeah. I say that because with the weight of the airport off your back, you're just a little bit taller.
The unfortunate thing is, David, when you get rid of one problem, there's always 10 more there to weight it down.
Of course. Yes, you're absolutely right. And I guess the issue is that both the staff and the elected politicians have to nibble away at it. Mm-hmm. You talked about your official plan and that kind of thing as being important, and it is important. In fact, it's mandated, and you've got to have that knowledge there, kind of guiding you is critical, and then we get the reset every 4 years. So with an election. So now, Dwight, I just looked at my schedule, and we don't interview you again. I think we interview again in February, and then again in April, the end of April, because when we go into the political election campaign, politically speaking, has to go silent because of CRTC rules. But I won't ask you the question about if you're going to run again, okay?
That's good. I can probably tell you February 8th.
Okay. All right. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I wanted to ask you, Dwight, is there anything from the county that you want to bring forward, you want to talk about?
Many things at the county level. Housing is a big issue throughout the whole area, and that we in the county level are trying to solve a tremendous problem. Not only putting money towards it, but trying to work different ways of creating housing and so on. And that's a big topic for 2022. The other one is the continuous long-term care commitment we have for building the new Rockwood Terrace development, for one thing. The process is going on very nicely, but it's a very, very complicated situation, and it's going. We're on schedule to have the project done, but tremendous amount of work, and we've got some excellent people working for the county, bringing this all together.
Indeed, and it's one of those things that has been sort of below the radar because of COVID. But certainly, we all look forward to that Rockwood Terrace development, and that would be very, very interesting to watch.
COVID has brought many changes to long-term care, and that's a particular situation we're continually involved in, is to make sure we bring everything up to the new guidelines and so on. And that's extremely important that we do that. And it's taking a bit of time, but we will work through it. I'm the chair of the Long-Term Care Task Force, and redevelopment of Rockwood. So it takes a lot of time.
I'm sure. And Selwyn Buck Hicks was reelected as warden, I believe.
Yes, he was. Yes. Yeah.
But by something unique. There's a unique method that how he got elected.
Draw of a hat, out of a box in this case.
Yeah. The CIO drew his name out of a hat, which is quite literally the luck of the draw.
Well, I've been sitting there where we've had 2 or 3 votes and still come up with a draw. So new guidelines were put in place. Very simply, is that we have a unanimous election first, and if it converts a draw, the second one will be out of a box.
Yeah. Well, it is certainly it's reasonable and it's fair. So, and I think as I recall, there were 2 good candidates. So
yes, it was.
It literally became the luck of the draw. And I'll be asking Buck about that at the end of the month. Looking forward to that, of course, as well as other developments. But it's the county is always, how shall I say? I won't say a shadow, but their presence is always with us at the municipal, at the lower tier level. You always have to keep them in mind because they are there. They are there. All right. Well, we've got just a minute left, so I wanted to express my appreciation. Cynthia, to you, welcome to Grey County and to Georgian Bluffs and to Politically Speaking. And I trust the experience wasn't too difficult for you.
Oh, thanks so much for the welcome.
Okay, and Dwight, thank you. Always good to talk to you, and we will talk again to be sure. And looking forward to more information from Georgian Bluffs. And to you, friends, thank you for joining me on Politically Speaking. Yes, we'll talk again.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Hi, I'm Thomas Chase, a right wing with the Owens and Attack. Go behind the scenes with your favorite team on Attack Rap every Tuesday on Rogers TV.
What in the world?
Seek. Have no idea what we're walking